All right. Good morning, good afternoon again. Hope you're all doing well. If you can see me all right, hear me okay, let me know, put it into the chat. Seems like it should be working well. Hey Linley, how you doing? Hope you're well. Thanks for that. Good morning, Pips Apprentice. Hey Nav. Hi Diana. Super. Hey Jimmy. Are you still riding on the Aussie to the upside? Or did you close out on it? I can't remember. I think you closed out on it, but it's still continuing to climb up. We'll give it a minute before we get started. In the meantime, if you are new to the session, where have you been? And do drop a message and say hi. Let me know where you're joining us from. And for all the regulars, I see your names there. A big welcome back. Thank you again for joining me on this daily market analysis. Hey Christina, how are you doing? Good morning and good afternoon. We had this morning a bit of a surprise from the Aussie with the CPI data release at 4%. We'll talk about that shortly. Which saw not a huge move, but relatively good spike to the upside on the Aussie dollar. And then not much else. We see the market's moving a little bit right now, so I'm eager to jump into it. All right, and then not much else for news, if I remember correctly. Hey Basanta, how are you doing? Hey Augusto, good afternoon. Hey Jumarinas. Jimmy is happy with it. Fantastic. Okay, let's get started. Again, if you can help me out massively, do remember to click that like and subscribe button. If you haven't already, I'm pretty sure most of you are very good with that. And also, if you have any questions at any point in time, please feel free to put it into the chat and let me know. Okay, quick disclaimer, any information contained on this webinar should not be construed as advice and is presented as educational material only. The contents of this webinar are not intended to be a recommendation to trade a financial product, as your objectives, financial situation and needs has not been considered, and you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. All right, take that away. And what we have here is the main thing here is the Aussie CPI, but before that, we look at what has happened since the last time we spoke. Again, another surprise here from the CPI of the Canadians last night, right? Last night, 8:30 p.m. was entirely, I was expecting this to be lower, right? It came out higher than expected. CPI month to month for the Canadians was 0.5, expected a 0.3, got released at a 0.6. Median CPI was 2.6, expected to stay at 2.6, came out at 2.8, and trimmed CPI was a 2.9, revised slightly downwards to 2.8, expected at 2.8. So it was 2.9, expected to slow down to 2.8, but it stayed, but became revised, but it got released at a 2.9, right? So that was a bit of a surprise, because we were talking about this yesterday. We were entirely expecting this to show a slowdown in inflation growth. I was expecting even below 2.8 in terms of trimmed CPI, expecting CPI month to month to be around at 0.3%. So given that it went from 0.6 or from 0.5 to 0.6, and from 2.8 to 2.9 and 2.6 to 2.8, generally showing a little bit of a, not really a spike, a little bit of a move to the upside. Not really a move, what's the word? Well, not falling as expected, not slowing down expected in the inflation growth data for the Canadians. right? So again, this would then mean that there is not as much encouragement. We talked about this yesterday, but not as much encouragement for the Bank of Canada, the BOC, to cut rates. They might keep it on hold, just waiting to see what's going to happen the next time the data is being released. Which, if you look at this on release of this news, the USCAD, we saw that, right? That's at 8:30. A lot of, I think generally the market was expecting for it to be slower. So we're expecting that push up. That's why you see before the news, we saw it sitting at 1.3. This was at 7 o'clock, so at 1.3660. Before the news, it pushed up to 1.36, almost 1.3680 on, not really on release of the news, but 8 o'clock, 8:30, it spiked down, right? It pushed all the way down. I'll show it to you in a 15-minute time frame, right? So at 7:30, 7:45, 8 o'clock, it sat there waiting for the news. On release of the news, we saw an increase in inflation growth, which brought some strength, because if the BOC, if the Bank of Canada is not going to cut rates, no encouragement for them to cut rates, then there's going to be a little bit more strength on the Canadian dollar, and that's why we saw the US CAD, or the Canadian dollar, strengthen slightly from 1.3675 down within that 15 minutes to 1.36, almost at 1.36 round number support level, and then bounce right back up, and it's been sitting right across since that spike and retrace, and it's been sitting right across now. Okay, if you look at it on the Bollinger, now we know why it spiked down and came right back up. It was out of the Bollinger Band. If you look at an H1 time frame, that's even more evident that it spiked out, couldn't stay out of the band, and came right back in. What it presents now is going to be interesting, because it's been sitting in a relatively tight consolidation after that spike. It could also be viewed as a spike down to grab some liquidity, come back up. We might see it pop back up again, especially if the dollar does continue to recover in strength. Okay, so that was the move on the US CAD, or the Canadian dollar, because of the news from the CPI last night. Basanta missed the Aussie yen. Yeah, don't worry, there's a lot of opportunities. It's a long-term game that we're in. Okay, then at 10 o'clock we had the US consumer confidence. No big surprises there. It was a 102, revised slightly down to 101.3. Expected 100, came out at 100.4. No big surprise there, or rather no big impact there. Then this morning, 9:30 a.m. Perfect timing for Jimmy, for Basanta, for myself. Not so great for the rest of you guys, because you're in the other side of the world. Super early for you guys. We had at 9:30 a.m. the Aussie CPI was released. Aussie CPI year on year, it was a 3.6. Expected a 3.8. So we were already expecting a little bit of an increase in inflation growth. We spoke about this increase in inflation growth, or if it did come around, or now that it's come around, could it lead to the RBA having to, or being more encouraged to hike rates again, because it looks like they might need a bit more help to try and bring inflation down to its 2 to 3% target level. And what happened? It got released at a 4%. So a relatively big jump here in terms of the CPI inflation growth data. And because of this, right? So again, 3.6 to 4, encouraging or giving the RBA a little bit more reason or encouragement or stimulus to think about hiking rates to bring inflation down further, what we saw was on the Aussie dollar, on release of that news, it was at 0.6642. Within the hour, it spiked up to 6673. So a good 30 pip move to the upside, continued up slightly. And then after that, now looking like it's pushing back down again, right? So we were talking about this last night where I was looking for it to go higher. I missed this move to the downside, although I had my entry level here at 6670. I thought that it would go up, test and reject. So I did not get into this trade. Anyone else got onto the Aussie dollar last night to the downside could have got this move towards that support area. And then on this move this morning, I know Jimmy got onto it. Anyone else got onto this trade? Let me know, with the Aussie dollar pushing to the upside. Okay, so that's what has happened since the last time we spoke. And then you can also see that the dollar index is pushing to the upside. It did not consolidate. It sat there for a while, did not test and reject. In fact, it broke through and it's heading, seemingly like heading it towards that 105.90 level, and it's pushing up as well right now as we speak. Right, so that's the breakthrough price to test 105.90. Now, with that said, what else do we have to look forward to tonight or for the rest of the day? It looks like it's going to be relatively straightforward in terms of trending scenarios, because not a lot of news left for today. We do have new home sales to be released at 10 p.m. GMT plus 8. I don't think it's going to be the big price mover this time around. And then through to tomorrow, where we have the BOE, Governor Bailey, speaking at the Financial Stability Report, or press conference about the Financial Stability Report that might bring about a little bit of activity or liquidity. But the main thing to look out for from tomorrow would be the GDP to be released, and then on Friday, the core PCE price index for the US. Okay, so for now, it does look like a trending scenario. Should be, fingers crossed, should be relatively straightforward in a trending scenario, especially with the dollar looking like it's gaining a little bit of strength or recovering in its strength, right? And it's not out of topic. Diana just said, all right, it's not, sorry, out of topic. Anyone watching the Euro 2024, what's your prediction? It is not out of topic. That seems to be one of the other things we talk about on this stream, aside from, no, I'm happy. We talk about football a lot on this stream, especially if it's Man United playing. I haven't watched much of the Euro 2024. It's not free to air in Singapore, so I haven't subscribed for the package, and yeah, I've only caught a glimpse of it when I was traveling, when I was in China, watching it on TV. Don't really follow it. I actually don't really follow the national teams. I don't like watching the national teams too much. I just don't feel like they're working together very closely. It always feels like a lot of individuals playing, and it just doesn't look like good teamwork. Right? Austria did surprise. I'm reading the headlines. They are doing quite well. England, as usual, seem like England always has a golden generation, but they don't seem to be doing too well. So I watch the highlights now and then, but not big on the national teams. Who are you supporting, Diana? Who do you support? And I know Jimmy's supporting England. What about everyone else? Let us know. Put it into the chat. We should do a stream just to watch maybe the finals. We'll watch the finals together on a live stream. How about that? Good morning, Noah Chuku. How are you doing? Let me just catch up on the chat. Diana's England all the way. Gotta pray for that then. All right. Okay. So now, with all that said, I think Germany's going to win it. I think Germany's going to win it just because it's being hosted there. They've traditionally been doing quite well. I think they've got it in the bag. Okay. Back to trading on the dollar index. What's going to happen or what could happen? Take that away because that's not rejected and broken down. We don't need this fib level as well because it's broken 38.2, it's broken 61.8. Take those away. It has, I'll keep that there because that 61 seems to be a good level to pay a bit of attention to if it does come back down. I don't need that as much, I'll keep that there. Okay. Now that the dollar is pushing up, what's that? Pushing up towards that 105.90 level. The main question is what's going to happen at 105.90. If it does break through from 105.90, the next level up would be at 106.40. The next major resistance will be at 106.40. I would like to also identify, let me see, a bit of a level here, there. Right, just because of what's happened over there at this point. So I'll say 106.12 would be a level to look out for as well. Okay, so now back to the present. We're looking at this, and for it to push up, there we go. Okay. Let me see. Okay, let me just try something and see whether it works. How does it work out? Yep, we have that point here at 106, about 106.15. So that would be interesting. Okay. Now with that, today being the 26th of June, okay, and again remember that we don't have any major news to be released for the US until tomorrow with the GDP. And the way it's moving right now, we want to look for a reaction at 105.90. Look for reaction at resistance level of 105.90. Okay, we had that already. And at that point, it could form a double top, but I don't see a reason why it would reverse from there. I don't see a reason why it could reverse from here with no major news, no big changes expected. So we would be looking for a reaction there and for a possible breakthrough towards the 106.15 level. I don't see it pushing strongly towards 106.40 just because there are no major news yet. Maybe tomorrow with the GDP or the core PCE price index, we might see that push up, but I think that would be a reasonable level to look out for. Just thinking of the core PCE price index, if it does show a bit of a slowdown, we might see that push back down again. But if we look at the CME Fed Watch tool, what's this? Go away. Right, 31st of July, we've got 10% chance of a rate cut decision. That's been a bit of a swing, right? So before that, it was 8 and 12, now 10. It was a lot lower before. I still don't think we're going to see a rate cut in July. So, okay, I'll look out for that. Then look for reaction at resistance level of 105.90. Break through, could see price test 106.15, which is looking for that dollar strength scenario to continue. Then with that, looking at the Kiwi, right? I don't know why my Kiwi does that. Oh, because of that. Okay, looking at the Kiwi dollar, I think that it wouldn't be reasonable to expect that push up given the expectation for dollar strength. It is still in this range between 0.61 and 6145. Wouldn't do anything here unless it breaks below this support, right? Unless it breaks below this support level. And if I did this just to test, yeah, you see that from the bottom here to the top, we have that level of 38.2 sitting along this support level. Okay, so again, what I would be then looking for is for it to break this area, which is only about 30 pips, so that's still reasonable to look for it to break. Then I'll look to sell down. If we see that dollar strength continue, so below 6.1, you could get in a bit you could be aggressive and get in below 0.61, right? A tight stop, and then you could look for that downward push. But I'm just thinking of this whole area there. I want to see it break this point. Where is 50 and 61.8? I don't think it'll do much at 50. Okay, so we're looking for it to break the support and sell down. 6070, stop loss 20 pips, take profit down to the 61.8 will be about 60 pips to the downside. There we go. Okay, so here we are. Kiwi, we're looking to sell at 0.6070, stop loss 20, take profit 60. 20, take profit 60 to the downside. Hey Lydia, we can and we will get back to the pound yen shortly. Hang on a moment. I'll keep that 6070. Did I get the right number? Yes. Okay. Then on to the Aussie. Aussie is going to be tricky. Okay, Aussie is going to be tricky. Why? So, okay, so that one's done. Aussie is going to be a bit tricky because we did have the number. We did have the CPI number that came from this morning that led to a push up on the Aussie dollar. But that move down now is being driven by the strength of the dollar index. So there is the anticipation where, you know, RBA might hike rates, and that we have that decision on Tuesday next week. Oh wait, we don't. Where is it? We don't have it on Tuesday next week. When is the next one? You see. Okay, so the next one's in August. No decision. Is there no decision in? Let me see. Not on the 2nd. Not on the 9th. Okay, so no rate decision from the RBA until August, which might be a good thing. All right, so although we saw that push up because of the CPI data, you can see that the Aussie is in a wide range between 6575 and the top there at 670 or 0.67. So it's within that range. I think that if it stays below 0.67, we could see a little bit of a push to the downside. It's still 2 months. It's still about 2 months away, or 1 month away from the RBA rate decision. I thought it was 1 week, but it's 1 month away. So dollar strength scenario, continued dollar strength scenario. I don't like thinking of that dollar pushing back down. Range push back down. I don't see it testing higher. Let me think. What's going to have to happen after with the euro? Okay, we'll talk about that. Jimmy said me too. Well, me too as in you don't think it will push up higher? I'm actually thinking that the possibility of the Aussie continuing to climb. Possibility of the Aussie continuing to climb to the upside a little bit more. Yeah. Okay, so I'm, as much as we're looking at the Kiwi, dollar strength, we're going to see that push down. I would look at the Aussie and think of whether, especially if this holds, we could see it push up, right? It is right at the 23.6 level. It's holding, this level is holding. Maybe it could do that, and then we'll look for that move back down, right? Because it has reacted very well along this 0.67 level. So I want to see it test, and that would be a better place to sell it back down. Could you trade it up? Let me see. I wouldn't trade up for that 30. I would say wait it out, see if it's going to bounce. If it tests and rejects 6.7, you look at 6.695, right? A test and reject. You'd have a tight, you could even have a no more than 15 pips stop loss, and then you could trade it right back down for that 60 pips to the downside. Okay, I will look for that on the Aussie. So we're looking for the Aussie to test and untype and reject 0.67. Then we'll look to sell at 0.6695, stop loss 15, take profit 60 to the downside. This could be a good RR kind of trade back down. Okay, then that's if the Aussie does push up, you could also look to sell it down from here. But I think that it wouldn't be super good, that kind of trade. You could look at that as well. But I don't like that as much. I would like to see it test. I think there's going to be a lot more strength to push down if it tests and reject. This move down like that might just be a slow drip to the downside. Okay, then my favorite pair, I've been watching this, I've been waiting and watching. I got onto my MT5, I clicked on the order button, I sat there waiting. I was ready to fire, waiting and ready to fire. Didn't, kept disciplined. I wanted to, you can see this dotted line here, I put it there just to, at that point I was thinking of whether I should get into that trade a little bit earlier, but I thought no, I'm waiting for it to break past this point, which is coming there, maybe in the next hour, for it to break past for that move to the upside. So I'll keep that view there at above 160, 30 to 100 to the upside, right? Why I had that in there as well is also because of that when I saw a little bit of a cross, but it was not the ideal cross. We wanted to cross over below that zero line, right? We wanted to cross below that zero line in a fashion like that. So if that crossed below the zero line, you could have got in and traded up slightly. Okay, so I was looking at that, but I thought needs to break that previous high before I would get in. It's quite close, but not ready yet. So I'll keep that view of 160, 30 to 100. I'll move that up to put it there. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'll keep that, and thanks, Naren. Sometimes I do try to be greedy, but I just thought it wasn't worth being greedy at this point on the yen. Okay, I'll tell you one other reason is also because that if I did get into that point, right, firstly, I had to contend with that, and then secondly, I wasn't very happy with where my stop loss was going to be. Right, with 30 pips would have been okay if I wanted to force it out just below that trend line, but I, with the yen, it could spike into the trend line and come right back up. So I wasn't. The second reason was because I wasn't very happy with where my stop loss would have been, so that's why I didn't want to get into that trade. So I'm looking for that move, and we'll stay disciplined and look for that. Then onto the pound, right? That test and reject. I missed this move. I was looking for that test and reject. I missed this move. I wasn't watching my charts at 10 p.m. last night. Came down and then pushed back up. Now pushing back down again. I am actually running this trade on the pound dollar as it broke lower. I think I got in there, right there, 2675. Let me just, yeah, 2675. So I am running this trade to the downside. If you haven't got onto this trade, then I would say that you would want to wait for it to close, for this candle to close, especially below this point at 2672. So below 2670, you want it to close. Then you could be looking at 2660. Could give you a bit of space. 2660. Stop loss 20. Take profit 40 or 35 to the downside. You want it to close. If it closes below this point, it should be reasonable. Let me just check something as well. All right, that's the 38.2. 50 is right there. That's why I wanted it a little bit lower. I think if it closes red below this 38.2 level, you could be looking to continue to sell it down. Stop loss 20 would be reasonable. Take profit 38 would be reasonable on dollar strength scenario. Okay, so 1.26. I don't think 60. I think you can go a little bit more aggressive. It's still pushing down. So okay, let's keep that. If you haven't gotten to this trade already, the Bollinger is slightly outside, so it might bounce. You see the dot there. It might sit there. It might bounce a little bit. There, we just saw it bounce a little bit. I actually want it a little bit higher. I think you can go a little bit aggressive. If it closes below 1.2665, you would have a 15 to 40 to the downside. Okay, so let me see, 1.2665, 15 to a 40 to the downside on the pound. It's bouncing up because of that Bollinger. Now onto the euro. I have that pushing down as well to the downside on the euro. Let me just see my trade. That's fine. It's sitting there. Okay, yep, that's fine. So it's still pushing down. Now, if you haven't, this was a good trade that pushed down, came right back. So if you entered there, if it made money, came right back up, you would see that it went out of the Bollinger, came right back up, and then pushed right back down again. Take that away. Oops. Take that away. Now, if you haven't gone into this trade, don't rush in. If you haven't gone to it, don't rush in, because what's going to happen at this point is we needed to break this whole area first, especially on dollar. If we expect that dollar strength to continue, it needs to break this whole area before we could see it go down further towards that support level. It's going to be a small trade on the euro, right? If it goes down 1.0660, stop loss 20 pips, take profit 50 to the downside. Well, not small. It looks small, but we trade it down to there. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. So if you haven't got into it already, wait it out a little bit. It's just sitting there. Needs to break 1.0670. So I would say sell 1.0660, 20 to 50 to the downside. 1.0660, stop loss 20, take profit 50 to the downside. Again, very biased on the dollar strength scenario. So we want, as much as we're planning for this, we're going to see the reaction at this resistance. If it does test and reject, then we want to flip some of our other analysis or bias on the other pairs. Okay. Basanta still has it running from yesterday. Nice. Oh, on the US yen, still have it running from yesterday. Should we close it to pass that higher high? If you have it running, I wouldn't close. If you have it running, I don't think it would close. I think you could, depends on your risk profile again, could hold on to it, take a bit of risk on that. Because I feel that if it gets to that 160 level, it could spike. It could spike up because there might be a lot of orders around that point looking for that push to the upside. Okay, Naren says flows are skewed by month and quarter end. Yes, but I'll kind of plan for that in the next couple of days, especially on Friday. Not right now. I think still a little bit early now to plan for that. Okay, wait, when are we? We're on Wednesday already. I thought we were on Tuesday. My days are all messed up. But yeah, okay, I think that I'll still plan for it more towards Friday. Okay, then, no, that's fine. Okay, then looking at the US Swiss franc, I haven't forgotten. Khalid is asking for gold. We'll do gold last, and I haven't forgotten about Lydia's request for pound yen. We'll get to that. UK and Europe value date is today. Oh, okay. I do. Well, we've got a bit of space, so I think that's still going to hold. I'll still keep that view with the value dates due today. All right, US Swiss franc, that took a long time to play out. Big shout out to Diana, who was telling me at that point, right at that point there, she was like, hey, Jin, what's your US Swiss franc? This is on the Discord group, so if you haven't joined us on Discord already, make sure you do. We tell each other key levels that is happening. She was telling me watch out for the US Swiss franc because it was coming towards that level. I do a lot of analysis on the US Swiss franc. I don't actually trade it that much. Not one of my pairs that I like to trade. So it did pop up. I didn't get into that trade, right? And I think, oops, let me do that back again. I think that it's tested that 23.6, is pushed up. It's retracing slightly now, possibly because of what the dollar index is doing. I think that if it breaks past, then it will see further upside. If you haven't got into this already, I think it's possibly too late. Yeah, if you haven't got into this already, I think it's too late to get in. Take that away for now. 38.2 broken, 50 is there. Okay, so why I say it's too late is because it's right in the middle at that point. Right, it's right in the middle. I would prefer to wait for it to move up towards that resistance area and see what happens from there. Especially if the dollar does continue to break up, then it would form a better move to buy it up above that 61.8 level, 9025, stop loss 25, take profit. You got a better move to the upside. I think that one we should look at about that point. And then you could see a bigger move. I don't think you'll see that big. You could be even looking at that. Right? So wait for it to break the resistance. I think it's going to slowly push up, break the resistance, break that 61.8. Then we could see the upside move. So 9025, 25 to 50 to the upside. 5, 9, 0.9025, stop loss 25, take profit 50. There we go. Then onto the USCAD, right? We were kind of played out. We were looking for a test and bounce. It would have been totally fictitious to say that, oh look, it tested and bounced, and if you got into that, you'd be making that kind of profit. No one's going to catch that move back. I was waiting for it to come down to this point, so slowly push down to this point before the news and bounce, but it spiked and bounced. So as much as it looked like it played out, you wouldn't have caught that move. Now sitting at this point, all right, you're looking at this. It's done that, it's breaking that, it's coming to that point. I want to highlight this, and I'll highlight this level to watch out for. So if you take those away, dollar strength scenario, you're looking at a bit of a counter trend move, right? Short-term trend is to the downside, so you're looking for a counter trend move back up, where you would be looking at about 1.3680, stop loss 20 pips, take profit 35. I think you can go a little bit. I don't think you go 90. I don't think you'll go 90. I think 35 to 40 will be reasonable. Yeah, okay, I'll look at that. I don't see a huge move because also that it's bouncing back, and we have a bit of a strength pressure to the downside because of the slight Canadian strength because of the CPI last night. So 1.3680, 20 to 40 to the upside. Right, 1.3680, stop loss 20, take profit 40 to the upside. Okay. There we go. Oh wait. Yep, happy with that. That's bouncing back up a bit. That's sitting right there. US yen is still sitting there. Aussie is pushing down, so we're looking for a test and bounce, hopefully. Kiwi is sitting right there. So it seems like Aussie is the one with the biggest momentum, looking for a retrace before pushing back up. Fingers crossed, hoping for that. Then with that, looking at the pound yen, a big push. I think I can clear out a lot of these lines. And if you have that, you'll notice that we have a good channel to the upside on the pound yen. Pushing up is a very, very high level. Okay. Then also you look at this point all the way to the top. Now, thinking of how the pound dollar is behaving, looking like it's pushing back down because of dollar strength, possible dollar strength scenario, a bit of pound weakness, and then on the US yen possibly pushing back up. On the pound yen, you're going to get a bit of a conflict. You're going to get a bit of a conflict because pound dollar pushing down is going to drag the pound yen back down, but the US yen pushing up could drag it back up. So given that it's in that range, what I would be looking out for would be that point there, right? This level here, which is also this bottom of that channel. It would be nice. It would be very nice if we could see it do that, right? But I don't think it could come down that much on the pound dollar, on the US yen. Looks like it's going to sit there. There is that middle line, which I removed just then. It's sitting right along the middle. I would say that if it holds that middle line, you can see how it's held that middle line and continue pushing up, you could be looking at it to go back up. I don't really like it this way. The risk to reward don't really make sense, but this might be a kind of trade that you look at on a smaller time frame. On H1, it doesn't really make sense because if it breaks past that point, oh well, wait, you could look at that. If it breaks past that high, 202.80, stop loss 25, take profit 50 to the upside. You'll be looking for it to break up towards that resistance of the channel. Okay. Hope I answered your question there, Lydia, on the pound yen. Jimmy says, don't see a reason for dollar index to break 105.90 to 106 tonight. It's retracing, it's coming right back down. That's why we need to see the reaction here. It could very well just come up and sit around there. It could do that and then bounce around this level, but I would like to see it push up. I feel that the momentum could drag it up. The momentum and the lack of a better word there, the speculation could drag it up. But we need to see what happens at 105.90. Then with that, actually, the more I look at this, the more I like the pound yen on a quick trade back up. Something to look out for. Then onto gold. That didn't take that away, that didn't happen. Stay above 23.17 to remain bullish. And what did it do? It broke 23.17 again because of what we saw on that dollar strength. So dollar strength is going to drag the gold down, and what you would see here as well is a very ugly head and shoulder pattern. Not exactly a head and shoulder pattern, but it's playing out. I think that it's sitting in there. I wouldn't do anything unless it breaks that point, and especially that point. So it wouldn't do anything here unless it breaks 2308. Then we could see it trade down slightly to 2300 and possibly down to 2290. Okay, so I'll go a little bit lower and say 2307. So gold needs to, especially on dollar strength, break 2307 to trade down to 2290. That's quite a big one. Let me think. Break 2307 down to 2290 to 2291, 92, 2292. Sorry, I'm mumbling a bit, but I'm just thinking aloud a bit. Okay, there we go. Dollar shown a lot of strength early in our stream, during our stream, and then towards the end of our stream now, it's pushing right, retrace right back down. It's out. It was massively outside of the Bollinger. That's why towards the end of the hour, it's come right back in. I just don't want it to form a pin bar because that might lead to a big reversal. But I think that if it sits there or it sits close to there, and it might slowly push up. And then we have all our other pairs. Okay, so with that said, please remember, actually I like that happening as well. Please remember, trade well, trade safe. Click that thumbs up button on YouTube if you haven't already. And I'll see you all tomorrow, same time, same place. Take care now. Bye-bye.